today we have Olga Hamilton, who's one of the UK's leading nutritional therapists. And she's a resident nutritionist at Bodhimaya retreats and also a TEDx speaker. And she's going to guide us through everything. There's a lot of information, so we've split Olga's sessions into 2 parts, so this week and next week, so that she can kind of delve deeply into it and then also answer some questions at the end, as we usually do. Olga's very thorough in her approach, and she relies a lot on science. She's always studying the latest research and advances in the field of nutrition, nutrigenomics, I'm not sure if I have pronounced that properly, nutrigenetics and functional medicine. And then Olga works with complex biodata to identify the imbalances within the body. So she does there's a lot of testing, and then takes a kind of targeted approach to her clients, and she gives them a really personalized approach to their health and well-being. So we're going to cover issues such as bloating, acid reflux, food sensitivities, IBS, leaky gut, the list goes on and on. And we can, I'm sure Olga's going to guide us through a lot of that. And then, as I said, we'll have the Q&A at the end. Okay, Olga. Where are you? Hello.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm thrilled to be presenting here today for all of you. And I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see all of the slides, and you can obviously take screenshots if you need to, if you want to, you're welcome to. And then, yes, questions at the end, please. So do make note of any questions or something you didn't understand or anything, you need any clarification on, so we can come back to it at the end. Okay, let's start this. So here we go. So this is a little bit about myself. So I'm a registered nutritional therapist, but yeah, thank you, Stella. You gave me a really great introduction. So I'm just going to go ahead to the next slide. So today we're going to talk about digestion, obviously. We'll start from the very top. We start from the mouth, because we do know that digestion starts in the mouth, and then we're going to travel down to stomach, small intestine. We're going to talk about transit time, which is very important for efficiency of our digestion. And then next Saturday, in part 2, we're going to talk about large intestine and our microbiome. So all of this population of gut bacteria that lives inside of us. So it's a very big topic, and that's why we had to separate it in 2. And large intestine is very obviously large topic, and the research is constantly continuous, and there's so many interesting things that come out or have come out recently, that yeah, it requires the whole hour to cover it, just to touch on it. So let's start then. Yes, it is very important to have a great diet. We do know that we do need to eat our vegetables, our fruit, our healthy fats, our proteins. It's essential for our health. But we also know that it's not anymore what you eat, but it's what you digest and absorb. That's what really is important, and that's what really matters. So, and the efficiency of our absorption and our digestion depends on how well our digestive system actually functions. And, you know, we're going to look at the whole structure of our digestive system. And of course, every single organ plays an important role, plays part in the whole digestive system and the whole process. So the point here is to obtain the full nutritional value from the food that we eat, because what we get from the food that we eat is what really matters. And if we have any any symptoms of bloating, indigestion, acid reflux, constipation, diarrhea, anything at all, it's just a sign that something's not working very well, but it can be fixed. So this is our system, and we're going to talk about the mouth, and then when we chew everything, it obviously goes through esophagus, it goes into our stomach. So this is our stomach, where we do mixing of our food with all of the digestive juices. So first of all, stomach acid, of course. And a lot of people refer or say, when they say stomach, they refer to the whole of the abdominals, which is not correct. So the stomach is only this upper part. This is where we do all the churning of the food. After that, our food goes into the small intestine. This is here, and this is where we do all of our digestion and absorption of the micronutrients. So micronutrients are vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, antioxidants, fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. So all of this we absorb in our small intestine, and this is why the health of small intestine is extremely important for ability to get the best out of our food. After that, whatever we haven't digested, we haven't absorbed, all of the fiber, it goes into large intestine. So there is a little valve here that connects the two, small and large, and then it goes into large intestine, which is this one. And this is where we have all the population of the gut bacteria that just ferments all of the undigested fiber. But we're going to talk about it next Saturday. Okay, so it starts in the mouth. So because we know that carbohydrate digestion starts in the mouth, we have amylase that actually breaks down carbohydrates, and we have it in our saliva. So the salivary glands, they secrete mucus into the mouth, and it also lubricates the food and also contains enzymes. So you can see there are 3 different types of enzymes. That means that we already start breaking down our food chemically in our mouth. And chewing creates as much surface area as possible on the food particles. So when we chew very well, we cover every little particle of the food with our saliva. And this is the point of chewing. So we want it to be mixed very well, and we want to cover as much surface area as possible. And this is why you probably know about the health retreats or well-being retreats, especially the one famous one is the Bodhimaya. This is where the whole retreat is built on how to chew properly. They make you chew one mouthful over 30 times. And it is great, yes, because then you train your body to digest better, because this is the first step, and this is one of the most important steps there is. So another very unexpected benefit of chewing, I actually found a study, there was a study done, a scientific study done on this. The more you chew, the more you suppress your appetite. So there is this hormone called ghrelin, it's a hunger hormone. So the chewing action actually suppresses ghrelin hormone, and as a result, you're not as hungry anymore. So if you want to do an experiment, you can chew something or eat your lunch or your dinner for within, say, 5 to 10 minutes. This is when you really just swallowing things, not chewing properly. You will feel like you are more hungry after you've eaten that. But compared to when you sit down and you properly chew every single mouthful, so your dinner or your lunch should take you a minimum of 20 minutes to eat, you're going to be less hungry at the end, and hence less likely to go and get another snack or wanting to have dessert afterwards. So yeah, why not? This is great news. Now we move on to stomach. So when we chew everything, we swallow, it goes down the esophagus and it enters our stomach. And we produce stomach acid in our stomach. And it is really necessary for us because it activates protein digestion and it also does a lot of other functions. It closes the sphincter here, so this is the valve that when we produce, when our stomach acid is produced in a sufficient amount, this is when this is closed, and this is when this valve is closed as well. So we get the churning to do inside of our stomachs. And when it's sufficiently churned, sufficiently mixed with stomach acid, then this valve opens and it allows the, the entrance of the food into our small intestine. So a lot of people suffer from stomach acid related issues or symptoms, things like bloating, belching after eating, burning sensation, heartburn, indigestion. So a lot of these things are linked to high stomach acid or a very acidic stomach acid, and a lot of people are prescribed proton pump inhibitors in order to reduce our stomach acid production. But why does it happen, really? How does it happen? Why are we getting this burning sensation? So there are several different explanations on that. First of all, it's natural for us, it's essential for us to produce stomach acid. So stomach acid is not here to blame, because that's how it should be. This is essential for our digestion and absorption of nutrients. So, but when this valve doesn't close properly, this is when the inside of your stomach can leak inside of your esophagus here, this tube. And this is when you can feel acid reflux, the burning sensation, because yes, stomach acid is very acidic. It's between 2, I think it's around, the acidity is 2, so pH, on the pH scale. And yes, it is kind of, acidic, and it can burn if you, if you're exposed to it, if your skin or insides are exposed to it. But guess what? It doesn't burn inside the stomach. Our stomach protects itself. So the inside of the stomach is covered with mucous membrane that is a protective layer from our own stomach acid. And this is why, we don't get burns in the stomach. The only way how it can happen inside of the stomach is when we have ulcers, or when we have inflammation, or when we have damage to the mucous layer. Yeah, that protective layer. And it can happen through when we have gastritis. You probably heard of that word. So this is diagnosed as gastritis or ulcers. So this is the only kind of situation or case when proton pump inhibitors are actually helpful, so that they reduce stomach acid while allowing that mucous membrane to heal and repair. So, but then all of the proton pump inhibitors and acid reduction medications, they were not created to be taken for a long period of time. They only are supposed to be taken while you're healing the mucous membrane, the protective layer. Mm-hmm. So usually what we see in practice actually is when you have all of the symptoms, it's due to low stomach acid instead, because one of the main things is because stomach acid closes that valve here on the top. So if your stomach acid production is not sufficient, this is not going to close properly. And this is when you are more likely to get the leak inside of your esophagus, which you'll feel as burning. There are other things that can contribute to that burning sensation, acid reflux, that happen lower down in small intestine, so which we're going to cover later today. So another thing I wanted to make sure that I tell you is that stomach acid's role, one of the most important roles, is to protect us or to neutralize any bacteria, any viruses, and any nasties that come or may come with the food that we eat. So this is the first line of protection from food poisoning. So this is why, some people can have exactly the same meal. One person can be ill from food poisoning and the other one, like nothing happened. So this is due to stomach acid. And yes, so this is why when we reduce stomach acid with PPIs, it can be a little bit dangerous for us, right? Because obviously you stop stomach acid production, and it can also have an effect, a negative effect, on how well we break down our protein, for example. The stomach acid is also essentially important for vitamin B12 absorption. And this is why older people have lower levels of B12. It's because their stomach acid is also not as efficient compared to, let's say, a 20-year-old person. Okay, so yes, this is how the PPIs work. So they block stomach acid production. So there are specific cells inside of our stomach that produce stomach acid. So PPIs basically just block that action. So I did say about that. So it's used just to heal ulcers or inflammation in the stomach, it is really the stomach acid is really essential for the digestion and absorption of a lot of micronutrients. So here you can see it's B12, it's protein, it's iron, zinc, calcium, and magnesium. And there's also a dose-response relationship. So what that means is that the more stomach acid medication you take, the less minerals you absorb from the food that you eat. So if any one of you are on PPIs, of course, I'm not saying stop immediately because I'm not a doctor. So only your doctor can do that. What I'm suggesting is perhaps look into other reasons why you have this burning sensation or acid reflux, or whatever reason that you take PPIs for, because this can be resolved naturally without the need of taking PPIs. There is also a connection with stress and stomach acid that you perhaps heard about. But what the doctors normally say is that, yes, stress increases the stomach acid production, and this is how you get more acid production and burning sensation in response to stress. But what actually happens, I completely disagree with this, first of all. What actually happens is stress. When you are stressed, you go into flight or fight mode. This is how we call it. This is when your body prepares you either to run away from a tiger chasing you or fighting an enemy. Yeah, this is when you get your pure natural stress response. And again, nowadays, of course, we don't have tigers chasing us. We have a boss, you know, wanting us to do something by the deadline, or we have stressful situations with finances, with our families, and so on and so forth. So what stressful situation does to us, it doesn't matter what the stressor is, it still causes that flight or fight response. So, and if you think logically, what does this response do to our body? It prepares us to run away. So we need our blood in our muscles so we can run faster. It shuts down our digestion and our absorption straight away because it's not essential for our survival at this particular moment. So it will divert all of the blood from your stomach, from your digestive organs into your muscles for running. And stomach acid production is shut down during stressful situations. So you actually get low stomach acid issue rather than high stomach acid issue when you're constantly stressed. And this is the connection between having stomach acid or like reflux, indigestion, bloating, and all of this is symptoms that I was talking about. This is due to low stomach acid because, as I said to you before, the valve doesn't close properly, or that you don't break down your food because of low stomach acid, and that food is passed down undigested properly, right, into your small intestine, and bacteria in small intestine starts fermenting it, producing gas, pushing on your stomach, and that opens the valve again, and this is how you get your symptoms. I'm going to go through the whole process. I know it sounds quite complicated and how it all happens. I'm going to go through that again in the slides, and then you can ask questions as well if you still have any questions afterwards. So what is important to say here? Yes, when we stress, we shut down our stomach acid production, and then that lower stomach acid, it reduces the signal that closes the valve on the top. Yeah, that's really important to remember. It also reduces that protective mucus layer that we have inside of our stomach. And this is why your stomach then is more likely to get ulcers, erosions, or inflammation, because you easily become more damaged. That layer becomes more damaged or more prone to damage when you have less protection here, obviously. Okay, let's look at the causes of low stomach acid. So first of all, we do need zinc to produce stomach acid. It's one of the most important micronutrients. And we need stomach acid in order to absorb the zinc. So you see, it's like a vicious circle. The lower your stomach acid is, the less zinc you absorb. But you absolutely need zinc to produce stomach acid. So we need to get your zinc levels up first and then work on stomach acid production. Also, excessive alcohol, sugar, also reduce the functionality of the cells that produce stomach acid or gastric acids. And there is this bacteria that can sometimes live in our stomachs. It's called Helicobacter pylori. You probably heard of that. It also inhibits stomach acid production. So if we test and we see that H. pylori is an issue, we can get rid of it, or your doctors can give you a prescription to get rid of it, and then you will produce more stomach acid as a result of that. Obviously, we do know that advancing age is a big factor. So there is only about 20% capacity when you are over 50 years old compared to 20-year-old. So it is really important to look after your stomach acid levels when you're older, especially. Overuse of antibiotics reduces capacity to produce stomach acid, and eating too quickly. But of course, we do know when you chew, you kind of stimulate stomach acid production because of the brain signal that food is coming, please produce enzymes, please produce stomach acid. And chewing does that to us. Right, okay, so there is not really a test, a diagnostic test that measures your stomach acid. There is one that you can do in the hospital, but it's very rarely done. When you swallow a capsule that measures the acidity of your stomach acid, and then that capsule is taken out of your stomach, and then there is like a measurement device in there. So but doctors don't do that quite often, to be honest. They just prefer to give you PPIs and that's it. So there is a at-home test that you can try. Again, this is not a diagnostic test. This is just an indication. And we recommend to do it on 3 consecutive mornings. So in the morning, when you wake up, don't eat anything. Try to stimulate your stomach acid production. And imagine biting into a piece of lemon. And you immediately feel like you start producing saliva in your mouth. The same happens in your stomach. In response to that, imagining biting through a lemon because of its sour taste, you stimulate your stomach acid production. So just imagine that for a minute, and then, and this is how you do it. So you mix half a teaspoon of baking soda or bicarbonate of soda in half a glass of water first thing in the morning, drink that solution, and then you time yourself to 5 minutes. You are supposed to burp because your stomach acid is acid, and bicarbonate is totally opposite, it's alkaline. So when you combine the two, you produce carbon dioxide, it's gas, and you're supposed to get a burp. If you don't get a burp within 5 minutes, it suggests that your stomach acid is not sufficient. But again, try and do it on 3 consecutive mornings and see which results you get in. So if it's exactly the same result every morning, then perhaps that's true, yeah. If you get mixed results, then perhaps this test is not for you, because again, this process could be affected by a lot of different factors, like what you had the night before, and the valve connection and all of the other things. So, but useful to do. Right, how do we improve our stomach acid? First of all, of course, if you are familiar with mindful eating and technique or strategy, you can try and do any of those things, and they are all very, very helpful. So first of all, when you sit down to eat, I recommend obviously no TV, because TV is only showing some upsetting news nowadays. And remember, those upsetting news, they can cause stress response. And again, we don't want to shut down our stomach acid production. So sit down quietly. It would be good if you're making your own food or preparing and cooking it, because while you're cooking it, you can look at it, you can see it, you're anticipating food, you can smell it, you can sometimes taste it a little bit, just to make sure that it's ready. So all of these things do help, because again, they send a signal to our body, to our digestive system, the food is coming and it's asking for, to prepare. And so put it on your plate and then look at it for a minute. Just imagine how much goodness is in your food, how many vitamins and minerals it's going to give you, and appreciate all the colors, appreciate where the foods come from, and all of the work that other people have put into putting the food on your table. And try and smell the food, because again, we need to use all of our sensors in order to, because all of them send signal to our digestive system. We also recommend to not drink any water with your food. We probably say about half an hour before any your main meals, and probably about 2 hours after, because when you drink water with your meal, you dilute your stomach acid. Again, this would be useful only if you think there is an issue with stomach acid. If your stomach acid is sufficient, then drinking water with your meal sometimes can be helpful, because it fills you up, hence you eat less, right? So it depends what your goal is really. But usually for better digestion, for better absorption, we recommend no liquids with the food, What you can do to stimulate your stomach acid a little bit more is to have something sour or bitter just before your meal. So there are certain things like apple cider vinegar. If you drink just a tiny amount, maybe 5 milliliters, like a teaspoon, if it's too sour for you, you can dilute it in a little bit of water. And if you drink that just before your meal, it's very strong taste, isn't it? So it will stimulate your stomach acid. The same happens when you drink a little bit of lemon juice, a very similar effect. And then we recommend to take like a bitter salad would also help, like rocket leaves, for example, or radicchio. Anything that's bitter or sour will help with stomach acid production. There are also, of course, there are supplements. There is HCl supplement, which is the stomach acid supplement that you can use. Again, only until you train your body to produce stomach acid again. So this is only a short-term solution, but it does help you with getting the nutrients out of the food that you eat. So when you need to get that zinc out of the food in order to start producing more stomach acid, this is how you can use supplements to get more zinc into your system, really. And there are also a lot of digestive bitters, like liquid drops that you can use. They normally are made with herbs, and those bitter or sour herbs, and they also work, but they are taken as a supplement before a meal. Okay, so now let's move on to the small intestine. And this is a really important part. As I said, this is where we do all of our absorption of nutrients. And it's very long, it's 7 meters long, and anything can happen there. We need to make sure that it's healthy, and the lining of the inside, the wall of our intestine from the inside is covered with enterocytes. So these are the cells that do all of the absorption. So how absorption normally happens is when we call it active transport. So there are specific molecules or specific receptors on those cells that allow entrance of minerals or vitamins into your bloodstream. So it happens through the cell, via the cell. Sometimes when we have issues with the lining of the intestine, And what we're seeing actually is that those enterocytes, the cells that line the inside, they are not really healthy, or maybe they're damaged, or maybe they're inflamed, or maybe they're not very tightly joined together. So this is when you probably heard of the expression leaky gut, or intestinal permeability, it's called. When they're not very tight together, there is a little gap in between. And this is when undigested food particles that are inside of your small intestine can leak through directly into your bloodstream. And this is how food sensitivities and food intolerances start. It's just because the lining is not tight enough. Okay, so what happens when undigested food particles goes into your bloodstream? Your immune system finds those undigested things in your blood and thinks, stop, this is the enemy, this shouldn't be here, we need to remove it. And your immune system builds something that we call an antibody to that particular particle to take it away. And when you do food sensitivity panel testing or food intolerances, that is IgG type food intolerance, not a typical allergy, food allergy type, this is what we pick up in blood, those antibodies. And doesn't mean that you are reacting to that particular food. It just means that that food somehow got into your bloodstream where it shouldn't be, okay? So yes, removal of that food that you react to could be helpful because it reduces the load on your immune system. But we also need to deal with the underlying cause, which is the tightness of that junction in between the cells. I can see we have some questions. Let me quickly look. And yeah, so we have a question from Fiona. If stomach acid is produced to digest protein, why might we get acid reflux even if there is no protein in the meal? Very good question, yes. Stomach acid is very important for the closure of the valve on the top. Yeah, so the insides of your stomach doesn't leak, you know, the inside that is acidic with the stomach acid, it doesn't leak into your esophagus, because that leaking can cause burning sensation. So it's not just because of the protein digestion. Stomach acid is necessary for a lot of different things. Yeah, you remember the neutralizing of the bad type of bacteria that can come in. So we could produce and digest protein. Why might we get acid reflux if there is no protein in the meal? Yes. Stomach acid also is essential for vitamin B12 digestion absorption, and it does a lot of other things. So it's not just for protein digestion. Main thing, yes, you wouldn't absorb your protein if you have low stomach acid, that's for sure, but it also is important for other things, not just protein. Another question, is a glass of red wine with meals not recommended then, if aiming for good absorption of nutrients? Funnily enough, yes, a small glass of red wine is helpful for stomach acid production. And this is why you probably know that, you know, having a glass of red wine with your meal is considered healthy in a lot of different cultures, like Italy, for example. And this is one of the reasons why, yes. So it does help, yeah, but water doesn't. If you must drink during eating, we also recommend maybe sipping on peppermint tea, for example, or something like a more bitter type of tea, herbal tea. So that also can be helpful for stomach acid, but not obviously, you know, drinking glasses of water. And there's another question from Thelma. What is best to drink after the 2 hours following a meal? Doesn't matter, because your stomach will be empty by then. It takes about 2 hours for the stomach to empty down into your small intestine. So whatever you want, really. So water obviously is a good one. Okay, another question, but do we produce stomach acid always, even if there is no protein? Yes, exactly. Yes, we produce stomach acid always. We're supposed to, because it neutralizes bacteria, kills bacteria from the food that we eat, and, you know, does a lot of other things as well. I thought my body might not produce it if it's not necessary, i.e. if protein is not present. No, your body should produce it in response to any food. Taking HCl is good even without a protein meal. Yes, exactly, yes. Perhaps if you have protein, then maybe take slightly more stomach acid supplements, like maybe 2 or maybe even 3, depending on how many you need, yeah. And question from Zoe, what are digestive bitters? Are they prescribed or from health food shop? They are supplements, yes, they are from health food shop. They are not prescribed. Okay, so let's carry on. Small intestine. So I've explained how food sensitivities or intestinal permeability are linked together. And this is why it's really important to look after the health of the lining inside of our small intestine, because all of the absorption of nutrients directly into the blood happens there. Okay. Now, this one is really interesting and probably requires some time. Sorry, could you please mute everyone? Yeah, because I can hear someone. So, hello? Right, okay, I think it's gone, yeah. So there is a lot of people nowadays suffer from IBS, which is the irritable bowel syndrome, and doctors don't really have a cure for it because it's not really a disease, it's a syndrome, as they say. So what the current treatment for IBS, official treatment that you can get, if you have diarrhea type IBS, you're gonna get something that prevents diarrhea or reduces diarrhea. And then if you have constipation type IBS, you get something that obviously like a laxative to help you go to the loo. But it's not a cure, obviously, it's just management of the symptoms, right? So what we actually seen in practice that a lot of IBS cases are linked to something that is called SIBO, which is the small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So a lot of different things happen here. But what I really want for you to remember is when we have bacteria in our large intestine. This is where we're supposed to have this bacteria, good and bad, and different viruses and parasites we have there. And there's a lot of different things that live inside of us. But we're not supposed to have bacteria in our small intestine. We're supposed to do absorption and digestion there. That's it, right? But a lot of people, especially people who experience bloating within an hour of eating, they have this bacterial overgrowth in the small intestine. And this interferes with absorption and digestion badly. Just because it interferes, right? It also produces gas, right? This bacteria, they like to eat fermentable carbohydrates, fermentable fibers. That is in all fruit, vegetables, nuts, seeds, a lot of like whole grains, for example, as well. So whenever you eat anything, like a big one, it would be lentils or beans, because they have very high content of that fermentable fiber, or onions and garlic, for example, is a big one for a lot of people. They, as soon as you eat that and it goes into your small intestine, bacteria starts fermenting those fibers or starts eating them, and they produce gas as a byproduct. And this is the gas that you get bloating from. This is the gas. How else would you get bloating? This is just the bacterial production of gas. So this bloating pushes on your other digestive organs, for example, your stomach. And this could be another reason why you have acid reflux. Because again, pushing on the stomach, the valve is opening and you get burning sensation in your esophagus. So we think that a lot of issues, digestive issues, come from that SIBO situation. There are a lot of questions obviously to ask about why you have bacteria in the small intestine. You're not supposed to have it. But again, thinking about your stomach acid, which is supposed to kill bacteria. So if you have low stomach acid, you didn't kill bacteria, bacteria went into your small intestine and decided to stay there and live there, right? This could be one of the ways how it happens. Other way how it can happen also in response to very bad food poisoning. A lot of people start their digestive issues, or they start feeling their digestive symptoms after a bad case of food poisoning. And we do know that causes small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And there are other ways how bacteria can get into your small intestine. But there is a test for this, so you can test and see if this is the case, because we can solve this and people get resolution of all of their digestive system symptoms. And not only that, their digestion obviously becomes more efficient. And this is the whole point. We want your digestive system to work as efficiently as possible. And so here on this slide, you can see actually we do know some statistics. So 50% of IBS cases are linked to small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. One of the ways to tell is when you get bloating after eating, especially like fermentable carbohydrates or high fiber foods within 15 to 1 hour after eating the food. So because we know if it's within 1 hour, it's still in your small intestine. It hasn't reached your large intestine yet. If you get, so there are two different types of bacteria that can live in your small intestine, and they produce two different types of gas. There is hydrogen and there is methane. So hydrogen gas is linked to diarrhea symptoms or diarrhea type IBS, and methane gas is linked to constipation type IBS. So this is an important kind of distinction why some people suffer from diarrhea and why some people suffer from constipation. Obviously, if you get abdominal pain, distension, this could be also due to gas. A big one is fatigue, because again, if you think about it, you're not absorbing a lot of nutrients, and hence you can feel very tired. And sensitivity to fiber. So if you feel like whenever you try to be good and eat those high fibrous foods, you actually get worse, right? So you're trying so hard to get your diet, to make your diet better, but actually it's not helping. And also if you have sensitivity to probiotic foods like those sauerkraut and kimchi and kombucha, a lot of people get much worse symptoms in response to that. But why? Because they actually contain bacteria. And if you already have an overgrowth in your small intestine, it's not going to be beneficial for you. It's just going to make things worse. And also a lot of food intolerances. Yes, that's another sign for SIBO. Okay, so there's another slide here that I've collated just to kind of give you more signs for SIBO. So things like, we know that if someone's celiac or have gluten intolerance, for example, and they are on gluten-free diet, but their symptoms are still not resolved, another sign for SIBO. If you do your blood test and you consistently low in iron, for example, or ferritin, that's another sign, because you're not absorbing it. Even though you're not vegan, for example, yeah, if you eat your meat, is a sufficient amount of iron in your diet and you take a supplement and you're still low in iron, that's obviously a sign of poor absorption. And SIBO is one of the culprits for that. Okay, so this is the test. This is how it looks like. We test both of those gases. So that we test for hydrogen here, you can see, and we test for methane here. And we expect, this is the expected gas production in response to drinking fermentable carbohydrate solution, yeah. And this would be the negative. So if you produce less than 20 gas units, that's negative. That's hydrogen gas. And if methane, if you produce less than 12, that's negative as well. So this person produced a very high number of hydrogen gas in response to the solution. So here you can see where the person produced the gas. So we can actually see where the bacteria is. Again, here from baseline to 100 minutes is the length of your small intestine here. At 120 minutes, your transition, this is where you have a connection between large and small intestine. And anything after 120 minutes is your large intestine. After 2 hours, it enters your large intestine. And there we expect gas production. This is where you have bacteria, and this is where you're supposed to produce gas. And we are seeing this gas production here, high numbers, yeah. But we can actually see this is where the person starts producing gas. You can see 60 minutes and 80 minutes is a large increase in gas production. This is where bacteria is, and this is where we need to basically work and remove bacteria. So this is the diagnostic test, and it can be done by some of the doctors. Some gastroenterologists can do this, and of course, any trained nutritional therapists can also do this kind of tests. Okay, so you probably heard of low FODMAP diet. This is the diet that is sometimes prescribed by dietitians, nutritionists in order to manage IBS. And how does it work? Because it reduces the consumption of those fermentable fibers, like your beans and lentils, certain vegetables like artichokes and asparagus and onions and garlic and cauliflower and cabbages. All of these very, very healthy foods, but they're healthy for the reason because they contain high level of fiber, fermentable fiber that feeds our gut bacteria. And this is the benefit of those foods. But because you have that bacteria in the small intestine, you're going to have bloating and all of the other symptoms in response to those foods. So this diet limits those foods. And it's not the healthiest diet, as you can imagine, because the health of your large intestine can suffer because you're not feeding bacteria in your large intestine. Hence, we're going to talk about it next Saturday, but there's a lot of health connections or health issues because of that. So we can use low FODMAP diet just to manage the symptoms while we're doing the treatment plan, but we're not recommending it long term. Probably 3 months would be the longest I would recommend someone to be on the low FODMAP diet. But if you try low FODMAP diet and it helps you with your symptoms, that's a big sign that you have SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, because that's a telltale sign, basically. This is what it does. So it reduces fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. And this is the list of the foods that low FODMAP diet prohibits. So here in the high FODMAP foods, you're supposed to remove all of these vegetables, fruits, dairy is a big one, nuts and seeds. So yes, I'll just say if you suffer from IBS, try low FODMAP diet. If it works, chances are you have SIBO. We can remove SIBO and we can, you can be free of IBS symptoms and you can digest your food better. Right, so last thing that I wanted to talk about is the transit time, but I'm conscious of the time that we only have 7 minutes left, and I know there's a lot of questions as well. So what I'm just gonna say here is the speed with which the food goes through our system from your mouth to your anus, that's really important, because if it goes too fast, your body does not have time to do proper digestion and absorption of nutrients. If it goes too slow, it damages the lining of your intestines, okay, because of the obviously constipation and blockages. So there is a test that you can do at home yourself with, so the optimal time would be 12 to 48 hours, okay, but it can differ from person to person. So for women, mostly it's faster. So it's somewhere between 12 to 24 hours. For men, it's slightly slower. So I would say 24 to 48 hours. And yes, slow transit time can also obviously cause constipation, hemorrhoids, diverticulitis. So all of these things that we don't want, obviously. A lot of different things affect your gut transit time. So underactive thyroid, for example, a lot of women have that condition. So it slows everything down, your metabolism and also the movement of your intestines. And regularly suppressing the urge to go also contributes to slower gut transit time. High levels of stress, obviously, because your body then abandons your digestive system when it's stressed. It just, you know, it's not essential. And also low fiber and low water in the diet reduces your gut transit time. This is how your stool is supposed to look like. So if we look at type 3 and type 4, this is the considered normal. So this is another way how you can tell if your transit time is slow or fast. So anything here, type 1 and type 2, is considered constipation. And anything here, type 6 and 7, is considered diarrhea, or, you know, a looser side. So that's a sign of fast transit time. Okay, so the test. We know that we don't digest corn, or, you know, every time you eat beetroot, you can actually see it coming out. So you can try any of those. So basically, don't chew it, just swallow it. I mean, half a beetroot is, I mean, obviously you can grate it, yeah. Swallow it, and then you take the time when you took your beetroot or your corn, and then you start noticing when it starts to come out, and you also record the first time you see it and then the last time you see it, because it can take some time for it to come out. It doesn't come out in one go. And this would be a good indication of your transit time. And again, when you know your transit time, and let's say it's slow, you can do things to speed it up, like adding more fiber in your diet, or adding more water in your diet, or perhaps doing something like that. There is a self-massage, and that's called I Love You. And you can do it at home yourself, you know, every day, just for 5 minutes or so. And it also helps you to speed up your transit time. But it's also good for overall digestion, really. So there are other things that, yes, I think I've mentioned all of this. Hydration exercise helps, of course, to improve our gut transit time. Fiber, hydration, I've put here. So hydration, we normally say it's 0.35 milliliters per 1 kilogram of weight. So you can calculate your own you know, optimal water intake or liquid intake during the day. Yeah, but if it's too quick, if your transit time is too quick, obviously we do need to find out the reasons why, because it could be due to food intolerances, due to IBS, due to some long-term infection in the gut, or other reasons. So we need to dig a little bit deeper to see what's happening there. Okay, so some key messages from today. Chewing is super important. Please do pay attention, and you will notice how your digestion improves from just chewing, just taking it a little bit slowly. You know, do take time to eat. Maybe put your knife and fork down between each mouthful and chew it properly. Try and think about all of these food anticipation things that I was talking about, like the sight, the smell, all of these mindful eating things that you can do as well. If you suspect stomach acid, use bitters, digestive enzymes, or HCl supplements. Do the test, do H. pylori testing. Your GP can do that if you suspect, you know, this is linked to your acid reflux or symptoms. Or SIBO is a big one. Try low FODMAP diet. If it works, here's your answer. You definitely have SIBO, I would say so. Test your gut transit time, and then act accordingly. So add water, fiber. Yeah, we need to aim for about 30 grams of fiber per day. So this is something I will be covering in the next presentation next Saturday, because it's a massive subject about fiber and, you know, gut bacteria. And it will be a very, very interesting one, because I will be showing all these new scientific, studies that show fantastic, amazing things that, come out now about our gut bacteria. So I know there's a lot of questions. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so we can go back to Stella perhaps. And Stella, if you could just...
Yes, hi, thank you so much. Olga, there's so much informative
it's so
stuff
many,
here.
yes.
It's amazing. I've learned a lot too, and it's been brilliant. Yeah, there's a lot of questions here. I mean, I just wanted to also make everybody aware that we have some at-home retreats available on our website where you can get some private sessions with Olga and get into your individual details if you would like that. Just send us an email if you want that. But let's go through some of these. I mean, we haven't got enough time to go through all of them, but we'll just go through a couple of them. This one's interesting about the probiotics. Should you take probiotics every day if you have a leaky gut? Because I know probiotics are a treatment for leaky gut, right?
Yes, they can be. Yes, if you're absolutely sure this is the issue, then yes, it can be. Because, but I would also recommend to take something like a gut healing or gut repair supplement at the same time, maybe like L-glutamine, or there's a licorice that you take as a supplement that also heals the gut. And because we need to build that mucous membrane or mucus layer that is protective. Yeah, so something that heals and repairs the gut lining. So it's not just probiotics, but probiotics do help, yes.
Okay. How can you remove SIBO?
Right, so there are three options. One is there is a non-systemic antibiotic, a very specific one that you don't absorb, so it only acts on the lining of your intestines. And there is an elemental diet that basically feeds you but starves bacteria, so it dies, but you have to take it for 2 weeks, and it's the only thing you take, which is quite radical, obviously, not for everyone. And there is a natural approach, like natural antibacterials, as that you can take. These are mostly supplements.
Right, so it's very much supplement based. There's a couple of questions about having water in the morning, water with lemon, water with fresh rosemary, that they're good for you. I mean, I have water every morning with lemon. Is it actually good for you, and what does it do for you?
Yes, I think it's good for us, yes, because first of all, it contributes to our water intake, and kind of gives a clean to your stomach, to your insides. And yes, so the water with lemon, I think it's because it just stimulates the digestive, just prepares you for breakfast. Yeah,
so it's more stimulation. And there is one question here about daily dose of zinc to improve stomach health.
Yes, well, the recommended daily allowance for zinc is, I think it's 30 milligrams per day. So that's probably what you find in most of the supplements. Yes, you can start with that, yes.
13, okay. It's what's becoming apparent to me here, like reading all of these and looking at all of this, is like you can fall into a little bit of danger of self-diagnosis right here without doing the testing. And and I think, I know personally, actually, from family members who have had gut problems, that I was diagnosing them, and I was like, oh, you've got this, oh, you've got that. And we realized quite early on that they actually needed to go and do some testing to actually see what they had, and manage it that way. So, without pushing it too much, I think testing is really the way to go, isn't it? If you're suffering.
Yeah, you need to find out why, for sure. And it could be so many different things, like and all of the symptoms are the same, really.
Yeah,
really tell from the symptoms.
Yeah, so be careful with self-diagnosis. If you're suffering too much, go and have some tests, and then they can really get into the detail of your specific situation and Olga does at Bodhimaya, they have testing, extensive testing, so they could help you. There could next week, there is some comments about fasting. Maybe we can touch on that next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, because people do often ask about is fasting good, and there are varying opinions on that. So Olga, thank you so much information to take in. It was fascinating. We will send out the link to the database so you can rewatch this, and I know Maureen asked for that slide to be put back up on the I Love You massage, but you can just pause it when we send the link out, so you can have a look at it there with that self stomach massage. Brilliant.
Well, great. Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you for all your kind words. I'm so happy you found it useful, and I'm looking forward to see you next Saturday.